Welcome back to News Around, your trusted destination for in-depth celebrity coverage, exclusive insights, and the untold stories circulating behind the dazzling front of the Turkish entertainment world. As always, don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, hitting the like button, and joining our community through the join option if you want to help us continue bringing you rich, original content. Today, we are diving into a story that has dominated headlines, overwhelmed social media, and stirred passionate debates among fans nationwide. And finally, after weeks of speculation, one of the central figures of this media storm, Kerem Bürsin, has stepped forward to reveal his truth. For a long time, Kerem chose silence over confrontation, watching from the sidelines as rumors intensified and accusations took on a life of their own. But now, weary of being misrepresented and deeply affected by the emotional consequences, the celebrated actor has decided to speak with clarity. His statements, delivered with striking candor in his exclusive interview with Luna Mag, not only challenge the prevailing narrative but also shed new light on the emotional turmoil that has unfolded behind closed doors. According to him, the uproar that was portrayed as a dramatic act of betrayal was not betrayal at all. It was, in his own words, a story told poorly and interpreted even worse. Kerem begins his account with a tone that mixes restraint and fatigue, as though every sentence carries the weight of weeks of judgment. "I've seen what people have been saying. I know how those photographs were framed," he admits, his voice steady yet undeniably burdened. But none of it reflects the truth. There was no cheating, no hidden agenda, no secret emotional entanglement. What happened was simply misunderstood. The images at the heart of the controversy, showing him alongside his new co-star Selin Aiden, were taken during a break after an exhausting night shoot. Kerem recalls the moment vividly, a shared laugh over an on-set mishap, a brief exchange between colleagues, captured at an angle that told a completely different narrative once it reached the hands of tabloids hungry for scandal. A gesture frozen in time, he explains, was enough to build a fictional story. And that fiction quickly overshadowed the truth. Throughout the interview, he repeatedly emphasizes that his relationship with Selin has no romantic dimension whatsoever. "I value her as a partner and admire her professionalism, but that's all there is," he insists. It's painful to see people create entire novels out of what was simply a moment of fatigue between two actors at the end of a long day. But perhaps the most emotional part of his explanation revolves not around himself, but around Hande Erçel, the woman with whom he shared a highly public, deeply adored relationship. Kerem speaks of Hande with evident tenderness, acknowledging that the widespread rumors inflicted more damage on her than anyone else. "She felt hurt, and I understand why," he admits. "When you've shared a journey so meaningful and so visible, even the slightest misstep becomes magnified. The last thing I ever wanted was for her to feel betrayed." He reveals that he attempted to reach out to Hande after the storm broke, hoping to offer clarity before the narrative spiraled further out of control. But his message went unanswered. "The silence," he says, "was painful but comprehensible. Perhaps the emotions were too raw at the time. I wanted to explain everything face to face," he says softly. "I never wanted a misunderstanding to contaminate the memory of what we lived." As he speaks, it becomes evident that the emotional pressure of living under a microscope has taken its toll. Kerem describes days when he feels suffocated, overwhelmed by interpretations and distortions he cannot control. "As actors, we learn to cope with public scrutiny," he notes. "But when your personal life becomes a spectacle, and someone you care about is dragged into the chaos, the pain hits differently." This theme of fame as both a blessing and a burden becomes a recurring motif throughout the interview. He admits that constant exposure put inevitable strain on his relationship with Hande. "Our love was real," he says, "but the world around us was loud. Too loud. We tried to protect what we had, but not everything can survive in an environment where every detail becomes a headline." Kerem also makes a point to defend Selin, who has been subjected to intense online criticism despite her minimal involvement in the situation. "She didn't deserve any of this," he says, his tone firming. "She stayed quiet, hoping the storm would pass, but the backlash hit her hard. It pained me to see her cry over something that was never real." In one of the most powerful and heartfelt segments of the interview, Kerem delivers a message subtly directed at Hande, though without naming her explicitly. His words resonate with sincerity, stripped of all pretense. "If you ever hear this, I want you to know that I didn't fail you. There were no lies, no betrayal. What there was confusion amplified by people who don't know our truth. I hope someday we can speak again just as ourselves, without cameras, without noise." The honesty of this confession struck a chord across the internet. Within minutes, hashtags related to the interview surged globally, with countless fans expressing empathy. Comments poured in describing the rawness of his tone, the vulnerability behind his words. Many praised him for stepping forward not as a public figure but as a human being seeking to reclaim his narrative. As the conversation progressed, Kerem opened up about the emotional cost of fame in a way that many fans were not expecting. He admits to moments when he wishes he could disappear from the spotlight, even for a day, just to breathe without judgment. "People assume we have everything figured out," he muses. "But sometimes we're just trying to understand our own feelings." Despite everything, Kerem hints that the chapter with Hande may not be definitively closed. Without making promises or predictions, he speaks of the heart as something that rarely shuts its doors completely. "Sometimes life separates us so we can learn what we didn't appreciate before," he says. "If destiny brings us back together someday, I'll be ready to fight harder against outside noise." At the time of the interview, Hande had not commented publicly, though certain sources claim she read Kerem's words and was visibly moved. Fans eagerly await her response, hoping for closure. Or perhaps a new beginning. Kerem's revelations bring an end to a period filled with confusion, speculation, and emotional turbulence. And while no one can predict what the future holds for him, Hande, or even Selin, one thing is abundantly clear. For the first time in many weeks, Kerem has reclaimed ownership of his story. In the end, beyond the rumors and the relentless media pressure, he has restored something essential. His voice, his truth, and the respect of thousands who now see the human behind the celebrity. Before we move on, let us remind you once again, if you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most talked about stories of the year, don't forget to subscribe to Newsaround, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Whose story should we explore next? Which Turkish celebrities would you like to see featured here? And what do you think about Kerem's heartfelt confession? Thank you for watching Newsaround. Stay tuned for more exclusive stories, more behind-the-scenes insights, and more truth beyond the headlines.